Once upon a time, two men decided if they were making the cut. Then they made the cut. And now JT and Aaron are talking everything from wrestling to pop culture and beyond, because it's no holds barred.
Will you back down, turn and run, or stand up with the best? When your back's to the wall, what will your answer be? Will you run for the door? Will you run out on me like it's hard?
It's bogus and no holds barred.
Most bogus, no holds barred.
We're back. JT, softball season's over, so Aaron D. Justice is back with us. Had a great season out on the field. Hit some home runs.
Yep.
Battled colorectal cancer.
Stab some guys with scissors.
Yes, here he is.
It's been a time.
Yes, it's been a time. It's been a time, but summer's over. We're in the fall season, so you're back. Signed a new multi-million-dollar contract. You're locked in.
You guys were very generous.
Episode.
Everybody was very generous.
Yes. But anyway, it's good to be back. It's been a minute since we've started.
It's
joining us is
it's really great to hear everybody's voice. Like, I know that maybe sounds stupid, but like it really does.
I had Chick-fil-A tonight, by the way, in your honor.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck you, I hate you.
The problem is my son, who's very picky, has suddenly really become obsessed with it. And now it's like I'm all of a sudden eating it at a rate I probably shouldn't be, but I'm going to embrace it. So also going to embrace. Well, go ahead.
We now have 2 Chick-fil-A's in Canada.
Ooh, that's like Toronto. A rapid expansion.
I know. One in Ottawa. And when it went to Ottawa, all my boys went freaking nuts. And we drove and waited outside. I think I sent you a picture that day. But it was like a good 45-minute wait, like out the door kind of thing.
And how far is the ride there for you?
Ottawa from me is about no traffic, about an Ottawa's right is about an hour 10. But
what about the Chick-fil-A?
It's about another 20 because so Ottawa's weird. The way where they built their hockey arena
is weird. In fairness,
I know. Where they built their hockey arena is in for the Senators is in a suburb called Canada, and it's like past Ottawa. It's right.
Tomato, Canada.
From Canada. Yeah, but yeah. So it's right next to that. I keep thinking I'm going to run into a hockey player there because they're not stupid. They know where the good food is.
I feel that's like the lost lyric from Kokomo. Canada. Ottawa, Canada. Anyway, joining us as well tonight is producer, not the tool man, Tim Taylor. Tim, how are you?
I'm so great. And as to steal a line from Conrad Thompson, I'm excited to be the first fan for this episode. To be able to,
honestly,
to hear it. Oh, and absolutely. Texas forever. But in any event, it's good to be the fly on the wall to navigate traffic and see you guys get back on the rails again. And no holds barred, man. It feels good. It's good to be back.
Now we'll shit the bed. So
we're gonna set the record for going on the rails and immediately back off the rails, no doubt.
That's the point, man. It's
rails,
beauty in the chaos. Look who's driving the train.
Into that tree. So now we're going to hit a new topic we've talked about, but I do want to stress if you're listening to this on our podcast network feed, we're also doing this on video on YouTube.
Yes.
So go to YouTube, subscribe to North South Connection there. You get to watch us if you want to see Aaron's flowing locks. You want to see Toolman's figure collection in the background. We got some posters, some cool shirts. You can check that out. I'm sure we'll have some kind of graphics maybe along the way. We'll see. But just subscribe wherever, audio, video, social media, all the shit. For those that have been around for a while, around Place to Be in North South Connection knows that every year or so for a while, we were doing projects called like G something, right? Greatest WWE Wrestler, Greatest WCW Wrestler, Greatest Matches. And in 2022, we did a 5-year look back of the Greatest WWE Wrestler Ever list, where people had to submit a list of 100 wrestlers. We aggregated the totals and then kind of gave a compiled list that everyone's scoring came out to be. And the first video podcast we did when we launched our YouTube channel, Aaron, was me and you
breaking down our list,
going through our lists.
That's right.
It was a brief, 3.5 hours, but we got through it.
That's good for us.
Yeah, it's a strong video if you want to catch, if you get a few hours to kill. But now it's been, a good 2+ years since we were kind of researching again on that list, and we're trying to think of a topic for tonight to do. And we thought it would be worthwhile to not redo the whole list right now, but I think what we're going to do is
what? We're not redoing the list?
Shit, I meant to tell you we changed the plan. I'm sorry if you put it.
I worked all week on the fucking list.
I'm sorry. It's a good thing you don't have much going on. So we're going to look through our list from 2022. Producer Tim is going to randomize and pull names from each of our lists. So he's going to say, okay, number 52, Aaron, you had Skinner. JT, you had the Berserker, right? And then we're going to kind of talk about those guys and say, okay, in that 2.5 years, would you raise this guy? Would you drop this guy? Would he be where he is today based on both stuff that's happened in current wrestling over the last 2.5 years, right? So more modern guys may move, or if it's someone maybe you've gone back and watched the matches for our other projects, et cetera, over the last 2.5 years, has someone raised their profile in your mind? We'll go about a half hour. We'll see how many guys we can get in that time. We'll set a clock and we'll run with it. And we'll see how it goes. So anything you want to amend to that, Aaron?
No, as you were talking, I was thinking like, it might be good to mention that, you mentioned Berserker and Skinner off the top, but like with the amount of wrestling that guys like you and I consume, that can actually sway quite vastly someone, despite the fact that they haven't wrestled in 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, right. We've done a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different projects, and we had wild swings from 17 to 22 on those older guys. Like, there are guys we have revisited, learned about, that we dropped, we added, etc. So I think there'll be some, maybe not as much movement, given it's only been 2.5 years on some of those older people, but
and it's interesting because the more I find that this is obvious, but like I find that the longer I keep watching stuff and the more I'm in it, I get to know my fandom more, right? And like, so for instance, in 2017, this was kind of the first project we ever did together, was the Making the Cut, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember at the time being like, okay, like where's the great match for Andre the Giant? Like where's that? Where's the great match? And I must just I was really convicted about that. And then when we get to 2022, that hasn't it was a consideration, but where it was the number 1 consideration in 17, it was the number 5 consideration in 2022.
Yeah.
And I think another 2 years away, hopefully I've grown more or gotten more immature. Either could happen.
Probably a combo of both.
Yeah. So, but I think it'll be interesting to see who moves and who doesn't and what the new people do, because there's been a lot of wrestling since we've given these lists in.
Yeah, I think there'll be some interesting cases for some of the newer talent. And what I've been doing a lot of this year is I kind of built out a whole database of grades of everything I've watched. And I've been trying to fill gaps. Either. Yeah, I know. Right? It's a lot of free time. That's what happens when you cut your podcast to get half some out. I still have 5 of them. But I've been watching a lot more of the modern stuff to fill a lot of gaps. So I've been trying to fill that WrestleMania 39 to now. I watched a lot of those, and been watching a lot of current NXT, and those people I like there. Some haven't been called up yet, so the pro didn't qualify for the list, because I think we kept it. Did we count NXT in that list?
In 2017, there was a giant argument about it. I remember that in the message, in the Facebook groups, oh no, you can't, you can. And then if someone didn't include it, there was a bunch of arguing. In 2022, it was Wild West. But I think both you and I, by the time we put our final list together, we had NXT guys higher up.
Yeah.
And then we kind of almost threw them out. I remember definitely with Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso Ciampa, them featuring prominently on my list until I really sat down and was no, I don't want to go back and watch that.
Right? Yeah. I'm scanning my list, and there's not many. There's some, but I think there were ones that really rose more on their main product, right? Like a Bayley. I mean, Becky Lynch for me wasn't even on the list in 2017. She got up to number 50 in the new one, right? So there were ones like that, right, that jumped. But yeah, Nakamura, Asuka, I think the foundation is mainly on their NXT stuff. So there's definitely some, but yeah, it's funny looking at the honorable mentions. Gargano was just outside the top 100 for me. I don't think they would even be. I don't think he'd even sniff maybe now. I mean, maybe, but probably not close.
Well, no, because then you're always weighing against some sort of sentimental favorite, Like, it's like, okay, well, as a child, I was terrified of King Kong Bundy. I thought he was going to murder Hulk Hogan, right? That he's given me more of a visceral reaction than Johnny Gargano ever has. Johnny Gargano is probably a better wrestler, like almost certainly he's a better wrestler, but I still am scared of King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, like I had Goldberg at 100, right? And I had Gargano on the outside. So, yeah, and I saw Cole and Ciampa 90, 91. So like they were there, but I still think some of the current NXT I like again, but I don't think anyone jumps out at me that would be like a must add.
Right.
Because it went from kind of super indie, churning out like 4 to 5 star matches to like looking at my grades. I like a lot of the stuff, but it's all more like 3.5, 3 3/4 is like the max, where they keep.
I've recently gone back and watched some of the older NXT shows, and what I'm finding is they're good shows. Like they're good shows. Like they're easy watches and they're good, but the gloss is a little bit off.
Yeah.
Like it's just that little bit off. And I'm curious as I go further in, if I keep watching them, what's that going to be like for some of the shows that I think, like for instance, like TakeOver Dallas, I think is one of the greatest shows of all time. Right. I'm curious if on rewatch, it's going to hold to that standard.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. I think the early ones to me, I think are going to sink a little bit because I think some of the shine of like, it's going to be hard to separate where some of those people ended up later. Like that seemed like they had all this promise, I think the ones that'll hold up best are more like that 17, 18, 19, where it was just like all the indie gods, like just having wars, like I think those will probably hold up because
until they get to the point where it's the matches are all like, I have no problem with long matches, but like when all of them are long, like it's like, okay. Like at that point I struggle just to get in the mood to watch the show because I know this
you 45 minutes, 40, like, a million kickouts, etc. So some of that stuff. But there are guys I think that would of the modern. I think there are ones that arise. I can think of a few off the top of my head that
Matt Riddle,
jump way up, like current guys, and I think there are some that'll enter the list that probably weren't on last time.
Well, let's get to it.
Yeah.
All right.
Clock.
All right, we are starting the clock in 3 and 2 and 1, and we're starting off with number 39 on your respective lists. Aaron, you have Bayley, and JT, you have Pat Patterson.
Could not be more different.
I don't say that with contempt, but it's you have Pat in between the Pat Patterson sandwich. For you, JT, you have Jake the Snake at 38, and you have Kevin Owens at 40.
I say Jake sandwich at Patterson sounds like a hell of a night out in '87. There is one similarity with the two, Patterson and Bayley. They're both huggers for different reasons, but
one you want to get hugged by.
I think we can quickly talk Patterson. I mean, I think he's still on the top 100. I think this is gonna be a little tough in some spots to like, without like looking at the list and be like, okay, up, down, and this guy above. My guess is he probably goes from 39 more to like the 60s, 70s, just because I think there'll be other ones that raise up. But that said, I haven't watched a lot of Pat Patterson the last 2.5 years. So I do know there's a lot of stuff I love, his classics. I think he's a great worker, he's super over. So I think he belongs in the top 100. I think he's one of the best 100 wrestlers they've ever had. 39 feels like I was just trying to troll Aaron, though.
It's possible. You did that a lot. Hence the softball. No, look, for me, I have Pat Patterson at 119 because, and I know that sounds specific, but on my time off, I built a master list of 500 guys and actually ordered them. If you look down on that list, Tim, it goes up to 500.
I didn't go down far enough. You actually did.
Yeah, Great Khali is 500, by the way, but
too high.
Like I like Patterson too. Look, I just think that the well runs dry really fast after the Sheik matches and the Slaughter matches. And I had this whole preface, but I don't want to make this about matches. But for the second list, I actually went back and watched a lot of Patterson. Because I kind of in 2017 I placed him kind of like on reputation. Like I knew the great stuff, but I didn't go back and watch it all. And when I did watch it all, I liked it. But the way I make my list, and I'm sure you make yours this way too, is you put however 130 guys you have or whatever, and then you just do them one by one. Is 130 better than 129? Okay, yes. Is it better than 128? And with Patterson, I just couldn't get him past that that level. Not to say I wouldn't, if maybe I watch more and find something new. He definitely deserves to be there for influence and whatnot, but as a worker, it's just not for me.
First IC champion, man.
Yeah, I know, but
won that big tournament.
I know that memorable tournament.
Probably better than some of those late King of the Rings.
You'd rather watch nothing than those two, right?
Rather watch
Theater of the Mind
than King of the Ring 99. I mean, my guess is he's there because I like the big matches and I do think he's influential. Where he is, I don't know. I mean, I had some guys like Terry Funk in 17. I had, I think fairly high, and he was off the list the next year, right? So
yeah, but that's what I mean. Your fandom changes. When you made that first list, you were watching all the house shows.
Yeah, I was going through that whole era.
So, of course, that's what makes sense to you're right in there. For me, I was watching a lot of older stuff for the second list. That's why guys like Andre went higher, right? My 39,
actually, I moved Patterson up 9 spots too in 22.
Oh wow, you're a Pat Patterson mark. Bayley is an interesting case. I had her at 39. Do you remember where she was on yours? Must have been below that.
49.
49. Okay, so you're not that far. I had her one spot behind Sasha Banks. I think she would definitely now pass Sasha Banks. I don't think she would get much higher though. I just don't think that when I'm looking at my list, she's about to run into classic guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think her work in the last 2 years has been very solid, but I think what really pushed her up my list in the 2022 was the pandemic. I thought she was fantastic.
I was going to say her best stuff of the recent era was already factored into this ranking, which is her carrying the pandemic era stuff. And I'm not as big a fan of her current character. It's fine. She's still a great worker. I like the match of Mania. She did her best with Nia at SummerSlam. It still works, but it feels like she had this magic that can never come back, right? She can never go back to that original character. This is never going to work. So it's tough to accept that. And she's done a great job with it and the ding dong dummy stuff. And I think the natural conclusion was for her to get booted from Damage Control.
Yeah. Even
though I think her best role, if she's not going to be the happy kid Bayley, is to be that bitch heel group leader. I actually think that was great for her, but I also know why they had to do what they did, right? Because
I think her next. I think the only time she's going to have to regain that mega over babyface is if they do something that they don't do that often, and it's give her almost a retirement tour.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is she's old, she's broken down, but she's going to go for the title one last time. And I think if you put her in that environment, I think she'll thrive because I think she is a natural babyface. She's got that natural connection. But right now she doesn't really have a character. She's kind of just another wrestler on the roster. Whereas before she was the hugger, then she was the ding dong. Now she's more of a full rounded person, but there's a spark missing in the character, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just different. She's just a great wrestler that has a legendary career. That's what she is right now. There's no.
Yeah. She's a high rent Natalya right now.
Yeah.
Natalya's she's a very good worker, Natalya, but there's nothing interesting about her. Bayley's probably a bit better a worker and there's more interesting about her, but she's going on that trajectory kind of where she's just another person on the roster, I think.
Well, and I feel Becky Lynch is similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of feel she I don't know if she's even around anymore. I don't know where she's at, but she, I feel like she was similar on that path where it's it's hard to recapture that original magic of the, the man, right? Big Time Bex was kind of I did just rewatch her match with Tiffany Stratton. The Extreme Rules match was fantastic. Recommend No Mercy 23, Aaron, if you have not watched it, has 2 back-to-back awesome main events. That's one of them.
No Mercy the NXT show?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
so
I gotta check that out then.
It's Becky and Tiffany, and then Dragunov and Carmelo Hayes is fantastic too. So I just finished watching that show. So she still has like, and I liked her. I thought the Trish feud was good. They had some good matches. So I think she's delivering a little bit more than Bayley is still, but it also feels the same. It's kind of like, all right, where do we go? Even Charlotte, like it's interesting because I don't. This is the first time they're running into this with the women, right? Like having so many really great female wrestlers that have done a ton of shit. It's kind of like, all right, what do you do now?
Well,
they haven't had to run into this before. Like, how do they wrap up?
And this is where the territory system would really help them out because, like, you know, the reason why we're kind of feeling this way about Becky Lynch is because she got so big as the man, they felt they always had to feature her. Like, you always have to feature this person going forward. But I don't know if they really had anything great planned for her. It's like, well, it's Becky Lynch. She's here. But if Becky Lynch were to go away for a year and go to, I don't know, go to Mexico or go to Japan or go to AEW, you know, if there was something that was trade or even TNA, if she went away for a while and then came back, she'd feel hot again. And the problem is that people have passed her, right?
Yeah.
Like Rhea Ripley has passed her speeding 10,000 miles an hour, right? And so like it's hard to go back to that character, right? Like to go back to this one who's been passed by these other people.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you need to go and refresh, but they don't do that. So it's all, it's all good.
And she's probably the closest to someone that has, like, she has kind of taken these breaks. Obviously was gone when she had the baby, and now she's been gone since Mania. Right. So, she has kind of taken these little breaks. So I don't know if she's even come back. I mean, there were rumors that she was done, right? Like her contract was up, etc. I don't think she'll go to AEW or anything with Rollins being so embedded in WWE. Like, why would she?
He'll divorce her. Like, you know how he is.
Go there. I don't think AEW is even some kind of haven anymore for these wrestlers. So I think it's, you know, those days are kind of past now. So,
but especially not for her because she's always going to get pushed. Right. Like, I kind of get why someone like Sasha Banks would go there.
Yeah.
Because, like,
although she could have kept getting pushed, I think
she was always the one, despite, like, I know some people don't love her work rate, but despite, like, she was putting out pretty consistently decent matches. And I found she was always the one that didn't get that. She was always the transitional champ, or she was always.
I thought Bayley was more that. It always seemed like I always thought Sasha and Charlotte were the most protected of that group. Even Becky until like the man stuff. But
yeah,
it wasn't till the end with Sasha where I think she was starting to have the problems backstage that they kind of backed off it.
Well, and the reason I think that is because I think when the women finally exploded was 2018. Right. Yeah. Like, it was good before that, but it exploded in 2018. And that's when the man happened. So you're right that Becky Lynch was kind of the fourth member of the Horsewomen, but then she became the first. And Charlotte was always going to be the company's first. Right.
Yeah.
So those two are super protected all the way. And Sasha and Bayley depended. But yeah, I guess Bayley's kind of like that too. I just think that Bayley's done a better job of like morphing into different characters and evolving with the product.
And I know it goes against the gimmick we set up here, but I think it's interesting when you kind of look at some of the women on this list. Like, I'm assuming Charlotte was our highest, right?
Yeah, I had her super high. I had her at 20.
Yeah, I had her at 26. Is Rhea higher than her now for you?
I don't know. Like, I think with
I don't think I even had Rhea on my list.
I don't think I did either. And I think Rhea right now is probably ahead of every other woman except Charlotte.
Right.
Because I think Rhea Ripley feels like the final product of the women's evolution.
Yeah.
In that, like, I think Charlotte has always been great in ring. I think Becky Lynch had an incredible character. I think Bayley was a good mix of both. But I think except Rhea is the first one whose in-ring work is so top-notch, but also has a completely interesting character that's right for the era. And I think that's just such a great convergence for her. But I don't think she exists without Charlotte. I think Charlotte is such a mold breaker. And I think she's the first genuinely great female wrestler as a whole package. Right. Charlotte. And where I think the package might be better for Rhea now, I don't necessarily think she's past her in terms of influence and in terms of great matches.
Yeah. Yeah. And she may.
Yeah.
I think what's nice about Rhea that we didn't always get a Charlotte is like, she shows a little bit more vulnerability, even though she's super protected and well pushed.
Yeah.
Like this whole storyline with Dom. I mean, she got cucked by Dominic Mysterio, right? So like, I think that shows a level of vulnerability that Charlotte didn't always have. Charlotte was very much the Cena of the women for that run. Like you kind of knew she was going to be in the title match. You knew she was probably going to win. Like you could kind of set your watch to it, like you could with Cena for a long time.
But without any of the Cena, because Cena was a character in the show, right? Like he was still a character guy. Despite what you think of him, never give up, the soldier, whatever he was. Charlotte kind of never really got past just being a Flair, I think, in terms of a character. And I think that might ding her a bit long term if we were to make this list in another 3 years.
Right. Agreed.
But I don't think she'd go down. I don't think I'd move Charlotte down my list unless I was putting people above her.
Well, it's interesting because her last couple of years have been maybe her weakest, right? Like she kind of was aimless for a bit. Now she's been injured for the last year. So like she hasn't really added, I don't think, a ton.
But I don't think she's done anything to hurt. Like, I mean, when you look at it.
Yeah, but as past her, I guess, would be one of the question, right? She hasn't really added to the list, but
that's what I mean is that, like, I don't think I would look at her work and be like, nah, she's not 20 anymore. I need to put her at 30. Like, I don't think that it would work that way. I don't think she'd go up either, because I think of everything that's happened in the last 2 years, her biggest thing is the match with Rhea Ripley, which I love. Like, to me, that's one of the greatest women's matches of all time.
Yes.
And she's just as responsible for it as Rhea. So that might boost her a little, but that's what I mean. I don't see her being knocked down. I see her maybe being passed.
Right, passed more than knocked down.
Yeah.
I think another interesting one is Ronda Rousey, who wasn't rated in 17. Obviously, she hadn't debuted. I had her at 84. I mean, I don't think she makes the list now, does she?
I kind of think she probably still, for me, she probably still has to, but further back. In the same way as I put China, I think I put China at like number 99 or something. Right. I think she'd be in that range, because I do still think, despite the fact that like the women's explosion happened with Becky Lynch and Charlotte and all that, it probably doesn't happen as much without Ronda. And I think she's very influential for that. And I think her rookie year is incredible. So I think
it's becoming more like that's her only year. Like, because after that definitely goes down a little bit. Some of her better stuff in 22 is already kind of factored into this list, like the match with Charlotte at Mania, which I know is kind of a divisive match, right? It's kind of
it's fine.
I think Ryan and I had it high on the Mania match list, but I think some don't like it. But her last, like her 23 was not good, right? The tag stuff with Shayna, the SummerSlam match is awful. And I was a huge Ronda fan in 2018, so she's an interesting one. I'm not gonna say she's officially off, I guess, but I don't know. It's a borderline. Like, I mean, like Walter, right, at the time, now Gunther, not even on my list.
Yeah, now he's got to be pretty high, right?
Like top 25, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, he's gonna be up there.
He didn't make your last list at all.
No,
I had him at 66 on the last list.
No, I had him as an honorable mention.
Wow, I mean, I don't think it's insane that he'd be top 30.
Yeah.
Like
his hit rate is insane. Or just look at his Mania record. like I mean, like the Sami Zayn match, the 3-way, is that it for him at Mania? But I mean, 2 for 2 with the 3-way, I think Ryan and I had a top 20 all time.
It's amazing. It's a 5-star match.
And this last one wasn't too far behind with Sammy.
No.
Another 5-star.
I think Ilya Dragunov is like the other one. That's kind of an interesting case, because his hit rate is insane. I mean, like, if you look at his just per match grade, and I didn't even go back to watch like a lot of his NXT UK stuff, which I know was really good. But just what he's done last year between the matches he has on TV on Raw regularly, plus the NXT PLEs, and then some of the pay-per-view stuff. Like, I don't know. I think he's a guy that's rising quickly too.
You're really just calling him PLEs, eh? What happened to you?
A lot of modern stuff.
What happened to you? I'm stuck on Dragunov because I haven't watched a ton of the Raws, so I've seen him on pay-per-view if he's there, or PLE. And but what I remember of him is just like long matches where he's just another Gargano on a card where Gargano's already there. But that's not
but I think it's a different style in Gargano, because maybe it just hits me better. Like Gargano's a lot of the 2000s indie shit, right? Like the kickouts, like Ilya has kick out, but like it's way more of a stiff.
Yes,
like, it's more of that Gunther style where it's just like kick the shit out of each other. Like I said, that Carmelo series is fantastic. I don't know, it's everything I watch. I'm going back to these NXTs and shit, and then can I say I'm dialed in on Raw? No, a lot of times I'm recording and it's on, but every week any fight seems to be like, okay, this is like a really good match.
Yeah, he's gonna get over and he's gonna be a champion there.
He'd be inside my top 100 right now. I would say, I don't know how high, but he'd be in there for sure. Like I look at this list and I'm like, how can he not be above, like Hercules? like I have Hercules in 96. Like Dragunov is above Hercules, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Dragunov does not have a it goes so high. Why the poor trumpet player is probably bleeding from the eyes and ears. Like
gods are playing the trumpet, so it's okay. They have unlimited breath. All right. Also, a guy in that. Sorry, too, man. I've completely overridden this plan, but these guys keep popping in my head because we're like Kevin Baconing our way through this. But Sheamus.
Oh, I love Sheamus.
Think this fucking guy raises every time we do this list. Like where did you? I had him at 37, up from 51. I had him up from there.
I had him at 30. But it's funny. We didn't even talk about his match with Gunther, which was like at the Clash of the Castle. It was incredible, right? Yeah. Because, Sheamus is just good. He's just good. And he puts on great matches. And he's just, and his character works. It's just a guy who wants to fight.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Anything more than that.
No, I'll fight him.
I thought he had a broken neck like 8 years ago, and since then he's put on these ridiculous fucking matches where he gets the shit kicked out of him. And he's also like one of the greatest tag teams ever with the Bar. Like his resume is insane. Like,
I
mean, I don't know. I just look at my top 25, but he might be in there.
Well, it's funny because like when I look at my top, like he's at 30 right now, right? And I got Batista at 25.
I was just about to say Batista. Like comparing to Batista,
he might be better than Batista. Like, I if you asked me right now who I'd rather watch a series of matches from, it's for sure Sheamus.
Yeah, Batista has the star power and the feuds and things that mean more. Sheamus is if you're like going purely on the against what you had said earlier, right? Purely more on the matches, and
versatility. He's way more versatile than Sheamus. Batista is.
Yeah. Plus, like we said, he's an all-time tag guy and singles guy.
But he could totally kick the shit out of Batista now. Like he would make fucking mincemeat out of that skinny bitch.
Like I have Slaughter at 25.
Yeah. Would you? I think Sheamus probably goes ahead of Slaughter.
Yeah.
Like, let's see if we get Sheamus to number 1. No.
How about Punk?
That was actually somebody I was going to bring up. I'm interjecting now. I'm putting my foots down. And the reason why is because I actually rolled 17 and you both had CM Punk at 17 on your lists in 2022. And that was back when you thought WWE's CM Punk was gone.
Right,
Since this list, Punk has walked back in
and done nothing.
So now there's talks of the futures with that.
Yeah.
It's funny, as we were talking about this topic earlier in the day, Punk's one who kept coming into my head. And I think the feud with Drew is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good. It's great even, right? But it doesn't feel dangerous the way CM Punk felt dangerous, like in his initial run. And I'm struggling if that dings him at all for me and moves him further down the list.
I think what happened is the AEW stuff, like for me, it's in my head, right? So now it's like, I'm almost watching, hoping he just doesn't get hurt. Like that's kind of where I'm at. Like, okay, like, can he get through this match? Yeah. Can he get through the next one? Okay. Like, is he actually going to be around? Right. Because to come back, get injured in your first match and then miss half the year, it's like, but even the stuff he did while hurt was good. Like at Mania, the commentary and then costing Drew was good.
Yeah.
So I don't, he hasn't been helped by this run, but I don't think it hurts him. I think it's like a Charlotte though. Have other people just passed him because of the inactivity. Now he had all that inactivity before. So if anything, he's actually added activity since we talked about it last.
He reminds me of like, I used to love like He-Man as a kid, right? And now one of my kids likes He-Man, and so we watch it, and I'm like, oh, come on. Like, and it's not to that level. I don't think he's garbage, but it makes me question, like, I can't question the feelings I had watching him when I was watching him originally. Like when we're doing the greatest match of all time, I have the Punk Cena for Money in the Bank #1 because I remember the anticipation. I remember thinking about it and obsessing over it. And I was 31, you know, and like, so I wouldn't take that away, but it doesn't feel like the same person. Like, and he felt like the same person in AEW. Like it still felt that dangerous element. And I don't want to judge him on his personal choices, obviously. Like I remember when he left WWE, there were so many people that were just angry with him for leaving. And like, you know, I hate him now because he's gone. Right. I remember that well. And, you know, he was so adamant that he'd never work for them again. Like ever. And then to go back, on one hand, whatever, you do what you want with your life, right? But his character was so anti-authority and so in your face and so fuck the establishment that for him to go back and really cut a bunch of promos and be like getting people to chant CM Punk and stuff like that, it feels like something has been taken away that was really special.
I think it's him overcorrecting for the bullshit from AEW. I mean, I think like his whole legacy was pretty, I won't say tarnished, but he went there. He didn't really have like that many great matches. He gets hurt, gets in a fight, and now he's the malcontent again, right? Like he's run out of the company as a malcontent, just like he was in 2014. And I think he's trying to play the veteran that's just happy to have the job and be back with the fans that love him role, right? He's like, there, I'm going to help teach people. Like it's almost like what Orton's done, right? But Orton just comes off as way more like natural and confident of a guy because I think he's just more naturally cool. And Orton's another interesting guy. Like I think he's probably gone up a little bit in my mind. Yeah. But he I think Orton's like low-key one of the best success stories in wrestling WWE history. Yeah. When you think about where he started, the reputation he had, the multiple times he could have flamed out, becoming a beloved, you know, just guy, like always super over. Yeah. Always looks like he's having a blast now, right? Changes personal views quite a bit. So it's
always
like
good. Yeah. Like always good too. Like that's like, I mean, that's a guy I've never turned around so much on anyone as I have on Orton. Cause I was an Orton derailer forever. Like, and then I think it was when we went back originally in 2017 and watched the match. I was like, oh no, he's good in 2003. He's good in 2000. Like, and he's giving some really great performances. And like, Christ, it's 2024 and he's still good to great every time he's out there.
Yeah, the matches with Gunther have been pretty good. Yeah, I mean, he has fun stuff. Him and Owens have been really fun as a team. So, you know, I had him at 23. Like, I don't know how much more higher he can go, but he hasn't dropped. I'll say that.
Yeah, like I had him at 16, and like when you're that high on the list, it starts becoming very hard to go higher. Mm-hmm. Especially, like it's one thing. Like, look, I had Roman at. I
wanted to ask, go ahead. Has he gone up at all?
I don't know, but let's finish Orton and we'll go to. But like, you know, he still has a long career ahead of him, so I think it's possible for him to kind of go up and up and up and up and up. But now, like with Orton, like how many more years does he have, and how many more great runs does he have? You think 5? You think 5, Tim?
He signed a contract for 5 years.
Yeah, but you know,
and I think with Orton's style. Yeah. Orton can do it 5 years. You have to think now in 2024, sports medicine is better than it's ever been. The training that they're doing is better than it's ever been. You're seeing it across all sports. It's more not just wrestling, it's sports in general.
AJ signed for 5 years too, right?
Yeah, and I think Sheamus, so as of our recording, not to like time box when we're doing this, Sheamus actually has agreed to an extension as well for WWE, undisclosed number of years, but even then,
10.
Sheamus is a 17-year WWE guy.
Yeah,
3 to 5 more years of Sheamus with a guy who, like you guys said, had spinal stenosis when he was with the Bar.
Also, they put him in the bar, right? Was to protect him.
To protect him. Yeah,
have him be on the apron.
Didn't hurt himself more.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny. But like guys like Sheamus and Orton, like as much as I love them both, I just don't know if in the next 5 years they're going to have stuff that I'm sure what they do is going to be very good to great.
You would have said that in 2017 though for Orton.
Yeah, but when I boosted him, it wasn't because of his work between that time.
It was going back and revisiting.
It was going back, right? Because when I look at 2017 to 2022, and there's not a ton of great Orton in there. In fact, there's some of his worst stuff, like the bullshit with the Fiend and, like Bray Wyatt.
But there's some really great stuff too, like the Hardy match.
Yeah. Of course, but I just don't know. Like, I think for guys like that, you would need like a long title run. You'd need like there'd have to be something to really push them ahead of.
Yeah, like I think him being at 16 on your list is already way over. I mean,
what I would have thought. Yeah. And look, he's 16. He's ahead of Punk. He's ahead of Daniel Bryan, and he's ahead of John Cena on my list.
So Cena's an interesting one, right? So for me, I had him at 5 in 2017.
Yeah.
And then I had him at 19 last time. So he really dropped.
Yeah.
And I think even though he hasn't done much the last couple of years, I don't know if he would drop again for me. Like, I feel like the Austin Theory thing kind of sucked. Like the little comeback stuff he's done. We'll see what this retirement run looks like.
Yeah.
If he can like kind of churn out one more classic, but like it hasn't done much.
No, one more good match or one more bad match is not going to move him. Like I don't think that'll make a difference for me. You would need something substantive or to go back and discover something new. And I think it's interesting to talk about Cena because we can tie it back into Roman, what we wanted to do. In that, I think Cena will always, and I think we talked about this last time, you always have to factor in the like 6-7 years where like he was hated by half the audience.
Yeah.
But not good. I don't believe he was good hated.
Right.
Like Dom Mysterio is good hated, maybe the best hated I've ever seen.
On your list.
He should make the list now because I've never seen anybody more over as a heel than him. Like, I don't think he goes very high because he just doesn't
90s,
have the
80s, 90s.
Yeah, he just doesn't have the resume, right? But or the big runs or anything. But as a character being over, so I think with Cena and Roman has the same problem because with Roman, you always have to measure. At least I do anyway. I know there's a lot of Roman lovers in this room, but you always have to. I know it's you. You always have. For me, I always have to measure all the years where it just wasn't working.
Right.
And it wasn't 1 year, right? It was like 6. And so I think that's really tough. And I think both he and Cena have that same problem. The advantage Roman has is that they're going to be behind him for as long as he's there now, right?
Right. And I think anything he's added, well, I see mostly net positive. But there is some rough stuff in there too. Like the Uso match at SummerSlam. It's tough. Some of those tag stuff he had like in the summer last year too is like not the best shit of his career. So, but he's got 2 all-time classic Mania matches. I mean, I think I went 5 on both. So it's like, he had a 2. Yeah, I'll confirm it. But he had a 2 5-star WrestleMania main events, since we last did this list, which has to count for something. I mean, that's the biggest show of the year, biggest matches of the year.
Yeah. Now that being said, I think his match from this year at Mania is 5 stars, but like there's so many bells and whistles. Like, right. yes, it's on him to a degree. Obviously, he's carrying his part, but I don't know if that match is 5 stars without all that other stuff. But all that other stuff is based on the history that he helped create. So it's not to knock him.
Exactly. That the payoff, that was a cathartic payoff to what had been building for years and years and years. Like it wasn't just like, let's empty the bells and whistles to make it hit. It was like, this was like an earned, these legends coming out to put an end to this fucking guy running roughshod over the company they built. Right. Like that was the story.
Yeah.
I went 4 3/4 at 39 and 5.
That's mine too.
For 40.
Like, but I think what really hurt I think the actual thing that hurts Roman in his run, because his tribal chief run as a character, I would say as a character, almost flawless.
Right.
Like almost flawless. I think what hurts him a little, and I don't know if it's his fault or not, is that number one, he didn't wrestle that much. I mean, he wrestled, but not a ton. Whatever. You can take or leave that. But number 2 is that almost every match had the same ending for like 3 years. And I think that to me made all of his matches less exciting. So something that should have been a 5-star match becomes a 4.5-star match. Something that should have been a 4-star match becomes a 3-star match because you're just waiting for certain things to happen. And there's some of that in all of wrestling, but I think with his matches, the formula became so pronounced that it's like, okay, well, he's hit his spear 3 times. He's kicking out. There's no way he's not kicking out because I haven't seen Jey Uso yet. I haven't seen Jimmy. I haven't seen Solo, you know? So I think that hurts him for me, is that like, I think someone in his position too, and maybe this is me being totally ignorant, right? I think someone in his position has the power to like affect the endings of his matches.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to hope that he's creative enough to like say, wait a minute, we've done this 5 matches in a row. Let's do something slightly different. Because if you remember too, I don't think anyone was as excited as me when he came out and beat the crap out of Jey Uso those 2 matches.
Right.
Like I was like, oh my God, if this is the run, he's the greatest of all time. But that wasn't the run. And maybe that's me just not getting what I wanted, which is fine. But I just think there's something off that just bothers me with that run.
Well, it's funny too, because it's similar to something we've been dealing with on Extreme Three-Way Dance with Rob Van Dam. It's like he's having these epic matches with Jerry Lynn, this awesome feud. But the story itself is that Fonzie is always the reason he retains, right? Like they're matched evenly. Lynn takes him to the limit, but Fonzie gets involved. Then when you look at his epic TV title reign, which where we're at in September 99, started in like, I think it's like April 98 or whatever. You look back at all his big stuff, it's like Fonzie helps turn the tide. And this felt similar to me. Like it's always Heyman and Solo turning the tide for Roman, right?
Well, and the thing that makes it worse is that, so he comes out in like August 2020 and, you know, now needs Heyman and Solo and all that. Mm-hmm. Up until that point, he was invincible.
Right.
Like he could beat anybody at it. Like he
Brock was a lot.
Yeah, but there was always like a ton of bullshit, right? Unless he was fighting Brock. Like there was always like a million run-ins or something. Like he was Super Cena for a while, right? Although he lost more than Cena.
He lost way more than Cena. He lost a lot. Yeah. When you look back at those men, like he lost a lot to Brock, to Undertaker, you know, like a lot of the big matches. Like
when did he lose to Undertaker?
Oh no, that's right. He beat Taker.
Yeah,
we all lost.
I agree. He lost more than Cena, but he was still presented as invincible, and you need like a tank to beat him. Then as soon as he turns, he needs like 50 guys to help him.
That's like all heels, though. I mean,
I hate that. Like I actually really hate that.
The guy in his shirt did the same thing, right? Savage was the guy in his shirt, in my shirt. Savage. Suddenly he needed Sherry in the purse and all the other fucking bells and whistles to win his matches. But
he always needed help. Like he was always weaker than Hogan. He was always like
yeah, but he won a lot on his own in '88.
Sure. But he wasn't invincible the way Roman and Cena were invincible.
Yeah. Or what about Hogan though? Hogan goes heel and suddenly he needs the NWO every fucking 2 minutes.
I don't like that either.
I know, but it's the same. It's I don't want to ding Roman for something that's like the trope throughout wrestling history. Like how many over dominant faces went heel and remained that way? Taker,
I agree, but I don't like when it happens. But here's the thing: is for his first feud, he was an over dominant heel. Like the way he fought Jey Uso,
he was a fucking tag wrestler.
Still, I just don't. It's something that always bothers me.
Jey Uso wasn't at that level yet. Like he, you know.
I agree, but like he didn't need help to beat him, and it was refreshing to see a heel do that.
Yeah.
Right now, he needed help to beat him later. Right, same opponent. Right, Jey Uso didn't really change. I mean, he became more of a solo guy.
Yeah, I think Jey developed like as a wrestler, like as a wrestler in that time. I think if you look at 2020 to 2023, I mean, he came a pretty long way. You know, main eventing Manias and everything else after that. So
yeah, I guess I just don't see him as a credible singles threat yet. Still,
no, I think it was more though in those 3 years.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, that's a small ding on Roman. But like. Again, I'm also willing to admit that that's not his fault. I just think it hurts the run for me.
So is he higher or lower if you're doing this list today? Or the same? Like I have him at 20.
I am at 21.
Is he going above Cena?
Yeah, but that might be Cena. Like, yeah, but I might move Charlotte ahead too. Like,
how about Jericho? Do you have him higher?
No,
I had him higher last time.
I have Bryan higher, and Bryan might go lower.
I had Bryan 7 spots higher.
I had him at 7. Bryan was at 18.
Yeah, I had him at 11. One guy who is interesting to me, and I think he's just maxed out. Like I don't think he can go higher as Mick Foley. Like I had him at 10. He's only gained in my eyes. Like watching 96 for Warzone, he's like the MVP in and day out. Even just today, I watched his match with Hunter at King of the Ring 97.
Mhm.
And I really, really liked it. Like, I think it's when you watching his whole story evolve over those 2 years has been really fun. And like seeing those interviews with JR, and then suddenly that match is just him. I don't know if you watched it recently. I hadn't watched it forever. I always thought it was boring. And then I really focused on it today, and I was like, the neck work is really cool. Like you don't see that a lot, like working the neck and head.
No.
And Hunter does it in that match, and Foley takes all his big bumps, like all his big bumps on the head. And he just keeps getting up. It's a really cool match. And so it's little stuff like that where it's, again, I don't know if he can get higher than 10, but
it's hard.
Man, he's solidified top 10 for me though.
It's hard because like, look, he's the type of guy that like I am at 13, but like, and at 12 I have Roddy Piper. Like, I just can't put him ahead of Piper. Like Piper doesn't have the matches, but like he's just such an iconic force, right? In a way that Foley Foley's an iconic force in his own way, but not to the same level as Piper was, right? Like Piper
Foley was pretty big during the hottest period.
Yeah, but he was like 3rd or 4th always during the hottest period. Like
the #1 New York Times bestseller.
But I just think you could have the Attitude Era without Foley. I don't think it would be as good, but I think you could have it. I don't know if you have Rock and Wrestling without Piper.
I don't know. See, I'm feeling less and less like that's the case. Well, I'll see how it develops throughout 97, 98, but like he's integral to the climb. Like he is. And I think his Attitude Era the same without the Hell in a Cell, him going off the Hell in a Cell, Mr. Sacco, all the shit with Vince. Like, I think he's a big catalyst in getting Vince over even more as a heel in the fall, because he's such a lovable fucking loser that Vince abusing him and like all that, like really elevates Vince during that fall period to be even more of an asshole, you know? So I think that plays a big role. I think without him, you lose that like true North Star, good-hearted person, because everyone else is a prick. Like Austin's an asshole, Rock is an asshole, Triple H is an asshole. Like they're all douchebags. Foley's like the one pure, even when he's the heel, as do love, it feels like he's been coerced. You know what I mean? Like,
like it's his dream.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So they're using him, right? So the whole time it feels like he's the only guy that really is like pure of heart in this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, I totally get that. And look, I'm not saying I'd want Foley out of the Attitude Era. Don't get me wrong.
It sounds like you don't even want to have him exist.
I hope he dies. No, but what I mean is that like no matter what, everything you say is true, but he's still always at least number 4 in the company usually. Like he's never one. I just think
it's a hard, like number 4 that year is like number 1 most years. like it's so crazy because you can look at Piper, and besides Hogan, there's not a lot of competition in that. Like Andre, but I don't know. Like, who else is a big competition in 85, 86? Like who Foley had in front of, like with Austin, Rock, and even McMahon.
I mean, you got JYD
Stranger
being
Things.
popular.
We go to the next scene.
That's the timer. I even added on penalty time from after the 30 minutes.
Blow through it. We never
was that all from Bayley?
No, that's just a random iPhone sound.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we might have exhausted Foley here, but like, I get your point though, that like you get to a point in your list, wherever that is, where it's just such a lockjam.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: do you put Vince on your list again?
I was just about to ask you the same question.
That's why we're the same person.
Yeah, we well, if you're from Canada and I'm from Canada, we you know, I don't know. You know, we didn't.
I still think he's like maybe the best performer they've ever had. Like,
it's hard because it's like nothing he did in that time. Well, I don't know. I'll say nothing hurt him on screen, but maybe it did. Like that stuff at WrestleMania 22 is fucking terrible. Is that it though? Is he ever on again after that?
22. That's when Shawn Michaels
WrestleMania 38, 2022.
Okay.
Pat McAfee.
Oh god, that was
very garbage.
I almost don't blame him for. I mean, the guy's like so old. Like,
right, but shouldn't be, he put himself out there though. I mean, no one else could put him out there.
That's true.
But is that it? I don't think he's ever on again, right? No. On TV. Yeah.
I don't. Well, he came out after all the allegations came out just to say hi.
Yeah, but he never did anything else.
I think like here's my first thought. Like, you know, Chris Benoit did awful things, but his wrestling character wasn't him doing awful things. Vince McMahon did awful things, but his character would do those exact same things. So I think
that make it worse. That makes it worse.
I think it makes it worse. Yeah. Because it makes it harder to watch. I don't know.
I think Benoit would have murdered people in the ring though if he was allowed to. So I don't want to stray too far and say his character wasn't. I mean, he literally was called the Crippler.
He was a Wolverine.
I mean, so I don't know. Like we don't have Benoit. I didn't have Snuka. Like I think in 17 people had Snuka. You know, I think Vince is as close to anyone that's murdered someone probably that we've had. It's tough. It's real hard, especially because we're coming up at a period on Wrestling Warzone, right? We're going to be, he's going to be the main focal point, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. I mean, because I have him hot. I mean, like
I have him at 7.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, so I think you can do the list without him and be fine.
I think he's one of those guys who you could put off the list to be like, well, I want to get this one other guy on.
I was about to say it probably makes it easier in a way.
Yeah, let's put Hercules on.
To use that as an excuse to get other guys on.
Yeah, like you don't want to get into. He's not on the list, and he'll never be on the list.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Like I've always argued from the perspective of like I don't want the personal life to kind of like bleed in because like everyone has a different standard of what bad is, right? So like you'll have the people who will be like, well, Hulk Hogan doesn't deserve to be on the list, but Steve Austin does, and it's like okay, but he did beat up his wife, like, so it's like, that's why I try to keep it out. But I think when the examples are so extreme,
I think there's a line where it's like, okay, everyone's kind of a piece of shit. Like you're not going to do something like this.
Except Mick Foley. Maybe he should be one.
Pure of heart. Love Santa Claus. I think, but I do think there's a line. Like, I think there's a line where it becomes, like I think Vince 98 into 99 is more of a cartoonish character, and it's not as mean-spirited. It's just like a bad guy, Dr. Evil kind of guy that wants to take over the world. He's a prick. I think the stuff that's going to get hard to like sit and watch and stomach is like 2000 on.
The Trish stuff.
Starting with the Trish stuff and going from there. Tori, Stephanie, like the Dr. Heine, just the mean-spirited stuff that you knew was like real, so I think like
there's no reason to do that.
But I think even if you ended his run in 99 at Fully Loaded or whatever, he still makes the list because 98 is so fucking
the best. He's the best.
But I think
you lose him dancing to When the Saints Go Marching In, which is a classic.
So I think, I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to rewatch some of his later era stuff. I think it's hard for me to rewatch the end of Benoit, like that 05-06 Benoit, where you can see him going downhill.
Yeah.
And I think Vince in that period where he's just completely off the rails and abusive, on screen for stuff that didn't even need to ever be near TV. Like, I think that's the Vince that's gonna be real hard to watch back.
Yeah.
I think maybe in 10 years when he's dead and wrestling has moved way past him, I think we could probably revisit this and be like, yeah, all right. Like, but I think right now where we're at with everything, I'd probably drop him. I mean, it's tough because for a while, he's like one of my favorite characters, maybe the best heel of all time.
I still laugh when I see him.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I'm sorry, but that's what happens, like,
yeah.
Now here's a question for you, not to go too off topic, but it's not really off topic. Let's say Benoit retires when Eddie Guerrero dies. He's like, you know what? I got to get away from wrestling and retires. Where does he land on your list?
So he never kills anyone? He just goes away?
He retires. He gets his head checked. He's fine.
Goes to live with Dynamite.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably top 40, 50.
Yeah, that feels about right.
Got some great matches. Didn't have a lot of great feuds. Not a big promo guy.
No.
I don't know. I'd have to look at other guys that are like similar. Like to me, like I have Eddie at 27. Like Eddie's better than him. Yeah. Christian, Jeff Hardy better than him. I'd have Triple H crazy enough to say better than him. Like I have RVD at 34. He feels like maybe in that mix.
Yeah.
Similar. Like RVD didn't have a lot of big feuds, but he had a lot of great matches.
Yeah.
They had Bulldog in there. Owen feels like maybe around Owen somewhere in there.
He's probably
Perfect.
in that mix.
Yeah. So like late 30s, 40s, probably. Has Kevin Owens risen dramatically for you?
I don't think so, because I think I'm past the character.
Yeah.
Like I'm not interested in really anything he's done in the last couple years. He's not bad. I like him. Like, there's nothing wrong. But when he comes out, it's always like, okay, I know what the match is going to kind of be. I know what the character kind of is. Like, I'm just not excited by him at all. What about you?
I had him at 40. He was someone I thought was like really cool that he stayed around in 2022. Like, because everyone thought he was going to AEW, right? He signs the contract.
I had him at 54.
Gets the Austin match. I thought it was a good move by him. But to your point, you kind of look at it now and be like, well, he's someone that maybe could go suited to go some fresh matches.
Yeah.
It's gonna sound crazy. I think he's someone that actually could do a fun little NXT run as like a bully veteran.
Well, remember when he came back for the War Games a couple years ago?
Yeah.
I thought that was great. And I was like, oh, this will be cool. Maybe he'll stay here for a bit. And like,
yeah, I think if you find like an up and coming face and he comes down to like pick on him.
Yeah.
I feel like when Cesaro went down and had that feud, he like fought Regal and then like
and Zayn.
Like something like that would be fun with Owens. Yeah, I don't know. He's probably right around the same.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I don't think he's done anything to hurt, but I'm actually a little surprised that he hasn't done more to go up. Like, I really did not enjoy any time he feuded with Roman.
Right.
Like, I can't fault the matches. The matches were great, but they were the typical formula. And I never believed he was going to beat Roman ever. Like, I believed Sami Zayn might beat him. Like, not really, but.
And I think the problem is he's like in late era Austin or even like Orton, where I don't know if you can rebrand him. Like what could he even change about him? He's so much that person now that like you can turn him heel, turn him face, but like
they tried to
do
make
the same shit.
The face of America. Like, I remember when they did that, and it just didn't work. Do you think it helps or hurts him that he's using the stunner?
I think it's fine. I mean, it's been so freaking long.
I guess for me, I think because it's such an iconic move.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it should have been retired with Austin, but
you know, a million guys do a figure four.
Yeah, but he never won with the figure four. Famously never won with the figure four.
I think because Owens has such a gravitas and he's been around forever. He had the feud with Austin. It kind of felt like a torch passing kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tim. What are you going to say?
I think an interesting question to kind of ask the both of you as being like a fly on the wall for this. And I think this might be a good exclamation point at the end of a fantastic conversation. Who do you guys project in the next 3 years or so when we get, if ever we get to a point where we're looking at the GWWEs again? Who do you guys think is going to be that next big jump up person who's going to really disturb your lists from the bottom half of your list upwards, or even somebody who's not on the list who's just going to jump up? I know you've said names like Rhea Ripley, who wasn't on your list before, Gunther, who's not on your list, but there's a couple others, like projection of like Drew McIntyre or Cody Rhodes even.
I think Braun Breaker will climb if they continue to book him the right way. Rhea and Gunther, the two, they're going to go way up. Ilya, I mentioned him. I think he's going to rise for me because I really love his style and what he does. Drew, I had at 61. He was not rated in 17. He's going to be he can only fit so many guys in the fucking top 30, but he's going to be around where Sheamus is probably for me. I mean, he has been phenomenal since his comeback. And since we last did this list, he's only had more great shit, right? Like he's in that Sheamus match with Gunther. He's a big part of it. The Punk feud. He's had so much good stuff. So
the match with Rollins at Mania is great.
Yeah. So he's going to be way up there for me. He's one of the ones I thought about when we were kind of discussing this. Is like, I had Lashley at 60 with him because they felt similar to me, and Lashley was not rated. I think Lashley hasn't done a ton since 22. Like, you know, that was a big jump for him, just coming back and being awesome during the pandemic. And he had fun stuff, but like, I don't think so. I think Lashley's more likely to stay, whereas Drew is like a significant riser. You know, I don't know. Maybe a guy like Carmelo may have an outside chance of sneaking in if he continues to develop. But I think Braun, Ilya, and then like Gunther, Rhea are obvious ones.
Yeah, I would agree on all those. I think Gunther is going to be the answer, but I do want to touch on Cody quickly because how much of WWE's resurgence in terms of gaining mainstream popularity again, or just getting good again, can be attributed to Cody in some way? Because this might be a bit of a stretch, but I really think that AEW being alive and being there forced WWE to stop being super lazy with their writing and booking and actually force them to challenge themselves. So I think just on that, he probably deserves some level of credit because he was so instrumental in that. But then he comes back and has this absolutely, I think his run so far has been really great. Like Cody, I mean, everything, like the Mania match, the ripped up shoulder match, the match with Rollins, this year's Mania, like the fighting champion. He's able to be the US baby face in 2024, right?
Yeah. Like, and he's a nerd. You know, he's able to be like a kind of a clown, right? Kind of a goof. He's a guy that should be rejected by all accounts. But he isn't, because he's just got this weird charisma connection to the crowd. Because they wanted Cena to be. That's what they want. I mean, he's what they wanted him to be in those years, 07, 08, 09, to have this connection with the crowd, to be corny and cheesy, but still work. You know, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he'll rise tremendously. The biggest catalyst to me besides AEW is Vince getting nailed, right, and kicked out. Like, as much as, you know, Triple H is good, Vince is bad, everything coincides with when he took over. I mean, you can't argue the data, right? Like, WWE got hot in mid 2022. Yes, Vince did come back for a lot of 23, but it was still, Triple H was still kind of the guy for most of that year.
But it was already kind of moving, though.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I don't know, because I feel like they were hot post-pandemic because people, I think, were desperate to kind of get back to things.
Yeah.
But you go back and watch like WrestleMania 38, and I think it's like a really good to great show. But then you watch one at 22, and it's kind of like right around there, and it's still, there's a lot of Vince shit in there that's kind of like, like, all right, Brock Roman again, right? Closes that show. It's like, it felt very much like, I don't know, but Cody coming back is like, I think the first musket shot, right? Because he, for him to come back as the American Nightmare, as Cody Rhodes, the surprise everyone wanted, right? That everyone wanted actually happened, to put him over, forget the past, don't bring him back as fucking Stardust, like to actually get behind him and push him. And that was still in the Vince months. Like, Triple H really doesn't take over till the summer, right? SummerSlam was kind of his first show. I think that was a warning shot that things were coming. So I think you partner Cody with Triple H, kind of refreshing, creative, people getting interested again because it felt different, right? You hear that a lot. I think AEW had some self-inflicted wounds that helped, because people were, and Roman, you know, Roman in that angle. And then I don't think you can discount the Endeavor purchase. Like, I just think being partnered and tethered to UFC and Endeavor lends them a legitimacy that allows them to be looked at now on more of a level. It's, ironically enough, what Vince always craved happened when he finally fucking left, right? It's like, it's a mogul industry with like one of the biggest fight companies in the world. They're, you know, paired up with UFC, these big fight weekends. You know, it's what he always wanted it to be. You know, he's just not part of it anymore. You know, and the parallels of this in Succession continue to blow my mind. Like, it's amazing when you look at how everything played out with both of them, right down to the.
I haven't seen the end yet.
All right, I won't say it. But I mean, you get the vibe. It's very similar, right? So anyway, all that said, I think there's a lot of little things too that have helped, right? Like, the commentary is improved, and a lot of that's because Triple H doesn't have the reins on Cole. You let Pat McAfee be himself, right? Like, they're more open to doing these different things, letting, you know, it's stupid little things, but it fucking matters to diehard.
Of course. Right? And it's all the stuff that we've been talking about for 10 years.
Butch being back to Pete Dunne, like, this little stupid things like that. Like, those all add up to big positives
Gable.
in the Chad Gable getting a mega push, Sami Zayn getting a mega push, like you know, it's not being a stupid character, right? It's being like the underdog guy that everyone loves is El Generico, right? Like so, like they've done a lot of those goodwill things have just built and built and built. He's built a lot of goodwill. Now, as he fucks some stuff up, sure, but in retrospect, the fans aren't always right. Like, should Cody have won at 39? I was staunchly a yes at the time. Now I'm like, no. You know what? I think it was the right move. They told a great story, and he nailed the finish. You know, it helped the way they did it at 40, but I don't know if that was the plan all along or not. Probably not, right? Because Rock and Reigns probably was, but they got there. So I don't know. I think he's just built a lot of cred with fans by doing little things, and that's built momentum. Tied it with all the other shit I said.
It all comes back to how Vince originally built the company. Vince originally built the company, and for many years did so by listening to the fans. Mm-hmm. Hey, who's the most over? It's this guy. Okay, let's push him. Something changed in the 2000s with everybody leaving, and it became like, no, this is our guy. This is our guy. I don't care what you think. This is our guy.
Right.
And I think we're back to that era where it's like, okay, Cody's hot. Let's go with him.
Yeah.
Like, I think now if Fandango, everybody's singing Fandango, he'd be the Intercontinental Champion now. Mm-hmm. They're just a little bit more on the pulse than they've been.
Well, no shit. Like, there's like a guy that grew up as a diehard wrestling fan that's in his 50s, which is still old, but like not the 80-year-old fucking cokehead that's, you know, maxed out every brain cell he had, right? Because he's lathered with concussions. So it's like, you know, it's a difference, right? It's a big difference when you're trying to connect with a younger crowd. I mean, you know, you could go even younger, right? And I think they do have agents and stuff that are younger and I think more in tune.
Yeah.
I think they've also given more freedom to the wrestlers, which has helped a lot too, right? I don't think
they got a guy like Jason Jordan as an agent, right?
Yeah. So I don't think there is a hands-on either. Like I think they're giving more leeway to guys. That's probably why Punk is different too. Like, he probably is happier. He's probably like, you know, this isn't what it was when I was here last, with Vince being a fucking prick and, you know, whatever. I had to fight for everything I could get. Now you came back as a hero. You know, it seems like it's a more easy backstage experience, right? They're less on the road. That's for sure.
Yeah. They're going to cut out house shows now, right? So
they're even eliminating more, they said. Endeavor. So like the schedule is probably a lot less, you know, grinding too. So why wouldn't I just saw Roman Reigns made like $15 million last year? Why wouldn't you be fucking pumped? You know what I mean? Like everyone. So anyway, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's good to be back in the saddle. We'll have to do another one of these because I think there's so many guys to talk about on the list. Producer Tim, why don't you pick one number? We're not going to talk about it. We'll just say yes or no to end with.
Sure. Let's go with my favorite number is 44.
All right. Aaron, who is your 44?
Kofi Kingston.
All right. Mine is Owen Hart. Yeah. Lower for me. He'd be lower.
I think Kofi's probably about the same. Maybe a touch lower if people pass him, but I think he's about the same.
Yeah. We'll see Owen. It'll be interesting to get through 97. His 96 was a downgrade for me, watching him week in, week out. Like, I think there could have been, he had a lot of chances to be like what they needed on Raw. Like, oh, a great match with Owen. And a lot of them never delivered. So he's been better in 97 with the Hearts stuff. So I'll see if that maybe boosts him back up for me. But
until he almost kills somebody.
Yeah. Well, that only helps because he gets better character. But his 96 stuff was he was one of the LVPs for me, honestly, in 96. And it wasn't because he was bad. I expected more out of him.
You want more from him. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. That's exactly how I feel about Kevin Owens.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, the Bards have been no holds. It's awesome being back. Producer Tim, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. If you have other topics, ideas, we'll be back here. Subscribe on YouTube, all podcast apps, social media, share your thoughts. Boys are back in town.
That's not the song.
No, shit.